Hello, everyone. Good evening. Oh, that was so quick. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone here to the Price Gilbert Library. We're so excited to have you this evening. My name is Catherine Mancy. I'm the public programming librarian here at Georgia Tech, and we're honored to have this exhibit and you all here in the library tonight. We were so excited when Bernie came to us with her first exhibit, Extension of Self, last year, and we're equally as pleased to host the second installation, Extension of Community, this year. So before we begin, I want to note hello to all of our people online. We're both online and we're in person tonight. So if you see any of us running around, we're just fixing cameras. The other thing I'll note before we begin is if you need to use the restroom, if you will take the back way around the chairs, because if you walk across the front, we'll see you in the camera. The restrooms are to your right, out of these doors to your right, and then another right. So before we begin, I want to thank Bernie Robert and also our library colleagues that worked tirelessly to make this show a success alongside our curator here today. Jason Wright, will you give a little wave? Jason Wright, Kirk Henderson, and Connor Lynch, thank you so much for all of your work. They work here at the library and they were really instrumental to making tonight happen. And so with that, I'll pass the mic to Steve Harmon. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Steve Harmon. I'm the executive director of the Center for 21st Century Universities here at Georgia Tech. The U.S. Senate today passed a law instituting a dress code, but apparently I'm the only one that saw that. I don't know. C21U is a catalyst for positive transformation in higher education. We really study everything we can about it and do what we can to really move things along. And not even at a STEM school, but particularly at a STEM school, there are not many things that are more a catalyst than art can be. And Bernie has done a great job in her previous exhibition and this one of really bringing together art and technology and humanity and showing what they all mean together. And so my congratulations to Bernie and the artists who are here today. We were able to help sponsor this through our corporate partners, Microsoft, who gave us an accessibility grant, and Bernie won an award of that grant here, which is why we're here today. So thanks to Microsoft. Thank you, Bernie, and the artists and all of you for coming. I'm going to pass it now to Brooke Vygotsky.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it. My name is Brooke Vygotsky, and I'm the Senior Facility Manager over at the Candida Building, which is where the other half of the exhibit is, and it's also where we are hosting our reception tonight. I hope to see you all there. So the Candida Building is actually one of the most sustainable buildings in the world, truly, and it's located here on Georgia Tech's campus, which is phenomenal. And we actually do sustainability a little bit differently over there. So most of the time when you hear about sustainable buildings, you think about energy savings, you might think about renewable sources of energy, you might think of conserving water, and we do all those things at the Candida Building. We have a beautiful solar array. We actually generate more energy than we use in a year. We conserve water specifically through composting toilets is a great way we conserve water. So we have a lot of different sustainability aspects of the building, but one kind of core component of that is actually beauty. It's one of our 7 performance areas on how we define sustainability. So when Bernie came to us and wanted to host a art exhibit there, we were absolutely pleased and excited to do so. So I hope to see you all at the reception. I'm going to be there. If you have any questions about the building as you're kind of exploring and looking around, please come find me and ask me. I love talking about the building. I can talk for hours and hours about it, but I was only given 2 minutes. So come find me at the reception. And with that, I'll pass it to Bernie Robert.
Thanks. All right. Can you hear me? Is that good? All right. So I'm extremely grateful to Microsoft and Georgia Tech C21U for giving me the opportunity to make art, tech, and science accessible here on campus through this accessibility grant. And Microsoft's mission is to empower every individual and organization to achieve more. And Georgia Tech's mission is to develop leaders who advance tech and improve the human condition. So both Microsoft and Georgia Tech understand the power of art at the intersection of accessibility, science, and technology. And this grant illustrates great collaborations between industry, academia, and community. And I want to thank all the artists today for bringing their creative work to the public. And I could not do this without the library and the Candida building staff, resources, and their beautiful spaces they have provided so generously. So thank you. And the College of Computing has been pivotal in my development and career, and I thank them for their continued support. So I would also like to give an extra big thank you to my team, LaDonna Cherry, who did all the graphics, Terrence Russian, and Kevin Beasley, who you might see on the photo and videography today, and Eric Simbret, who did all the web design. So exhibits like this bring research outside of the lab or classroom and into the public space for building community and having conversations, which is a shared goal between the library, Candida, and the College of Computing. Now I'll play a video.
What does it mean to be sustainable, and how can we build community around helping the planet through the technology that we are engineering? When is technology too much, and when do we just need to change our behaviors? My name is Bernie Robert. I'm the curator and principal investigator for this exhibit, Extension of Community, what it means to be sustainable in a digital world. There's 14 artists and researchers that are part of this exhibit, and this exhibit addresses 3 themes. 1, plastics and wastes. 2, social and environmental justice. And 3, imagined futures.
So this exhibit's really about how we relate to the environment and is thinking through how technologies can help us reflect on our relationships to more than human others, specifically to plants. And that includes how our bodies connect biologically, but also includes what these plants embody in terms of their social and political meanings.
So it's very important that my audience understand that the fluidity of data is relative and that there's so much room for interpretation, and that's why I chose to do a more abstracted piece that represents the disproportionate amount of pollution in areas where there are high populations of Black people.
So this is an interactive art exhibit that really invites the visitor to come in, interact, question what they're doing for the environment, what we as a community are doing for the environment, and how the technology of the future should be designed to be ethical and sustainable.
So a lot of my work fits under the umbrella of the Anthropocene, right? Of thinking about how humans have essentially acted as an ice age. We've permanently impacted the Earth in a irreversible way. So the idea for the exhibition, I think my work fits in as far as trying to understand sustainability and understand technology and the technological fixes that may occur in response to human action to combat climate change.
Whenever I hear sustainability, my imagination goes to the forest. And when I think of community, I think of people working together. And I often think of people working together in a group, an analog human flesh and blood group. So our idea was to try to build awareness through a sort of storytelling mechanism.
We've turned a bridge into a window or a lens into a sort of underlying metaverse that connects our physical reality, but also our digital realities.
Our installation requires you to physically be at the bridge. We use geolocation on your phone to determine where you are, and you are only able to participate when you are actually in this space. Use that to allow participants to invite people to join them. It requires community to come together, to gather in this space.
And now we're using the bridge itself to connect scholarship. So connect the audience that's passing by the bridge, that's on the bridge, that's passing under the bridge, to other sources of scholarship and thought leadership and research that are uncommon.
So the media bridge itself was an attempt to try to have the library, which is at the crossroads of the campus, be a community of people from all different departments and backgrounds, students and faculty, to collaborate. It is a nexus of information.
When thinking about sustainability and community, no one individual really has the power to make a huge difference acting alone. It requires conversation and accountability.
It's too big of a job for one person. And second of all, this is our material waste. And this is, this is the archaeology of the community of humans that have, grown up into the 20th and 21st century. So it has to be a collective effort.
We can't be independent when trying to figure out these answers or these solutions to how to live more sustainably and become regenerative in our practices with technology and the environment.
So I first want to invite Pam Longobardi up to the stage. And Pam is an artist, activist, professor, and founder of the Drifters Project, working globally at the intersection of art, science, and activism in relocating ocean plastics from wild nature to social space. She is Distinguished University Professor and Regents Professor at Georgia State University in Atlanta. So Pam, for the last 17 years, you have excavated and documented tens of thousands of pounds of plastics fished out from the world's oceans. You make art out of the debris to bring awareness to the overuse of plastics. Could you tell us more about the Drifters Project and how it feeds into your work on display in the library and Candida? And this piece is in Candida, and then this piece is here in the library.
Thank you, Bernie, for putting this all together. This is super interesting. I feel like I've been at the triangulation of art, science, and activism forever, and now it's finally getting some help to make that happen. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I was at the south point of the Big Island. I'd been going to Maui for many, many years. It's the Hawaiian island chain has the southernmost tip of it is the Big Island, and it's also, that is the southernmost tip of the, quote, United States. And if I went there because I was on an artist residency, and I got, I don't know, I got the itch to just go down and see the place where the Pacific Ocean washes up into its first landmass. This was in 2005. And when I got there, there was mountains of colored plastic. It was a shock. First, I thought I was looking at an art installation. It was kind of weirdly beautiful. So many colors, so many odd shapes and things. And then finally, I walk up to it and I see that it's our garbage, and the ocean is literally like vomiting it out onto the beach at South Point, which is a lava beach. It's still alive. It's an island forming right now. So anyway, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I completely changed my practice. I went back there for several years. I knew that I had to take forensic photographs of I felt like I was witnessing a crime against nature. And it was, then after that, if there's a crime, we need the evidence. So I needed to bring back the actual objects. So I started this project that many years ago and have been collecting all over the world. It's now a global collaborative effort. And there's really only one thing that you need to do to be a Drifters member in the Drifters Project, which is to pick up at least one piece of plastic that is vagrant and escaping and going somewhere, and get it in a better place than it is. Put it at least off the ocean edge, off the beach. Put it if there is a recycling, we know that's not really an answer to much, but put it where that is, at least sequester it from hurting creatures in the world. So yeah, and then you have to tell someone about it. So I'm hoping it's pretty easy. Come on down, because drifters is all of us.
Yeah. And when thinking about the intersection of art, science, and technology, and how plastic was a great technology of a certain time, and now it's not so great. And so you, with Bounty Pilfered, you kind of make note of that in the oil spill.
Yeah.
So can you go?
Yeah. So this is, you know, it's a culmination of a lot of things that, you know, I was putting together over time in my life. My dad was an ocean lifeguard. My mother was a diver and swimming champion of Delaware. And the thing that was really crazy about it was that he was working for Union Carbide in the 60s when they were developing the first plastics. He would bring home experiments. We'd make, you know, like 2 chemicals together on the kitchen table, and then this, you know, straw colored foam would bubble out. It was great stuff, not so great stuff. Expansion foam insulation. And, you know, I found whole pieces of that, which has got, the can is, you know, gone, because that's natural. It's going to dissolve in nature. And the only evidence left is that this, like, you know what it looks like, right? I think, did you use some in your, yeah. So you can see it live over there, but his is colored. Did you paint it? Okay. Anyway, yeah, so this was on an expedition in Alaska, where we collected all this stuff. It was art, science, and policy people, which was really amazing. And
that
yeah.
video's and that video is being played at the Candida building, if anyone's interested in that.
It has grizzly bears, whales. Carl Safina, if you know him, he's a major naturalist. Mark Dion, artist. Woo!
Yeah. So thank you so much. Now,
Bernie.
I know we have a lot of artists, so we'll keep moving. And then after this exhibit, I hope that you each go to the pieces and talk with the artist more. So Jeremy Bolen is an artist, researcher, organizer, filmmaker, and educator interested in speculative planetary futures. His work has been exhibited internationally at numerous locations, and Jeremy is an assistant professor of art at Georgia State University. And I'll also ask Dr. Juan Pablo Correa-Baena, I feel like you could help me with that. Baena, who is assistant professor and the Goizueta Junior Faculty Chair in the School of Materials Science and Engineering here at Tech. So Jeremy, like Pam's work, your work calls attention to the Anthropocene, such as your a core of a core of a core here in the library, and then your installation Sulfur Skies, which is a collaboration with Dr. Correa-Baena in the Candida building. So could you tell us a little bit more about how these pieces blur the lines between technology and nature?
Sure, yeah, and thanks so much, Bernie, for everything and for having us. Yeah, so I guess starting with this piece up here, Sulfur Skies, I think this is kind of part of a series of works I've been doing for a while, thinking about geoengineering, because we've entered a part of the climate crisis where it seems very likely that large-scale geoengineering initiatives will most likely take place as we see global temperatures rise. And one of the, I think, most likely scenarios is something called solar radiation management, where they want to inject sulfur in the stratosphere, right? So that's kind of mimicking volcanic eruptions. They know this from volcanic eruptions that have happened. There was the last very large scale volcanic eruption was 1815 in Indonesia, And that was the year with no summer, right? Because the ash, the sulfur went into the stratosphere, it cooled down the whole Earth. It snowed in Virginia in July, etc. Anyways, this is a kind of a fix where they can instantly cool down the Earth. So for this installation, there are large panels that are kind of emulating that sulfur sky. Juan, Pablo, and I worked together to make a sort of solar-powered starry sky to replace the stars you wouldn't be able to see. Because one of the problems with solar radiation management is that it would change the color of the sky. It would most likely be white or yellow, and you would not be able to see the stars anymore. So sort of some of the unintended consequences for these kinds of endeavors. There's also some other sculptures in the installation talking about coral shielding and crop albedo management as well. And then the other piece, the middle part of this work is a CT scan of a sediment core. And it's one of the sediment cores that have been used, that's being used to be a possible site for the beginning of the Anthropocene. Again, the Anthropocene being where humans have had a huge, acted like a geologic force, right, and left a permanent record in the Earth. And it's a proposed epoch, a proposed new time period, but to actually have this go on record, they need to have a time and a place where it began. So this was a core sample from Stanford University at Searsville Reservoir I took a couple of years ago, or I got access to a couple of years ago. And this core, the CT scan is really interesting because scientists can learn so much from this. They can see what happened certain years, what chemicals were used in the reservoir. It's kind of a mirror of our civilization and of our actions. So that kind of mirrors the technologies we've used already.
Yeah, thank you. And Juan, Pablo, could you tell us more about your research here at Tech into renewable energy and why you think collaborations between artists and scientists is important to Georgia Tech and the community? And you turn on the mic.
Okay. So the reason why I'm collaborating with Jeremy is because I feel that as an engineer and as a scientist, I have a role to play in the world. And I grew up in a country in South America where we produce a lot of oil. And I always grew up thinking we have also so much sun, and why are we not using that? So it was always this juxtaposition of natural resources of oil that was making the country rich, or at least some people rich, and all these natural resources that we're not really taking advantage of, be it hydropower or solar power. So, all of that kind of shaped what my passion for renewables, and this is also why I'm working with Jeremy, because I want to bring awareness to not just my small community of scientists and researchers around solar energy, but also to the community overall. And I think art is a beautiful way to do that. So I'm not an artist. I'm here to help solve the problem with the sulfur skies, hopefully. But I think that is my role as a human and as a scientist and as an engineer to try to bring awareness to this.
Yeah, well, thank you. And then you can see this piece over in the Candida building after the exhibit. So thank you. All right, so next we have Sylvia Janicki, and she is a PhD student at Georgia Tech's digital media program, and her research integrates critical theory with tangible embodied interaction design to explore more than human relationships through data and sensing technologies. So her work draws heavily from feminist theory, disability theory, and lived experiences of chronic illness. And Dr. Naseem Parvin was advisor to Sylvia during this project. And Naseem was an associate professor here in the digital media program and is now at the University of Washington Eye School as an associate dean. So instead of plastics and waste, Sylvia and Naseem display 3 Georgia plantation plants on pedestals titled Sensing Bodies for visitors to interact with and view. So Sylvia, could you tell us about these 3 plants and their socio-political entanglements with humans and the land?
Yeah, thanks Bernie for putting all of this together. So this project is really about unpacking some tensions in more than human design. And we often think about plants as innocent, or we'll think about them kind of as good for the environment, but we don't often like consider their social and political meanings or entanglements. So in this project, we use three Georgia plantation plants. We use rice, indigo, and tobacco. And with these plants, kind of thinking through the messy and ambivalent and kind of nuanced relationships that we can have with plants. So these plants represent very complex, more than human entanglements as commodities of everyday life. We use them in different ways or have attached different meanings to them, but they also reflect this system of extraction and violence historically on plantations that has set up, structures of exploitation that is continually kind of embedded in our landscape and our systems today. And so yeah, we use these plants as a way to think through these like social and political aspects of plants, and through them also thinking in a more nuanced way about what environmental problems mean and what sustainability can mean.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's interesting. Just tell us real quickly, why did you not use cotton?
Yeah, so I initially wanted to use cotton as one of the plants since it's very kind of representative of Georgia and plantation crops here. But you actually can't grow cotton without a permit in Georgia because there's an invasive like weevil, I think, and it can be really destructive. And so it's like in its own way, another representative of another kind of multi-species entanglement. And so, yeah, so I swap that one out and use rice instead.
Okay. And what's the importance of the technology in your installation, and how does the visitor fit into the displays?
Yeah, so we use different biosensors and environmental sensors in each of these exhibits. And we use the sensors to capture data that is essentially co-created by the plant and the person that's interacting. And so instead of using these sensors to measure individual bodies, which is usually what they're used for, we use them to represent a relationship. And so that data is then displayed in the LED lights and will change the kind of colors and patterns and brightness of the lights based on the interactions. So creating this more kind of reflective and interpretive data display instead of kind of the more prescriptive way we usually think about data. And so, yeah, we invite participants or visitors to interact with the plants in embodied ways through movement, through touch, or through breathing. Yeah, and their kind of embodied interactions will then change the displays and change how they see the plants through the LED lights and through the plexiglass box. But we also wanted people to experience a little bit of tension with the interaction. So on the one hand, we have these technologies and the data displays that can help visualize a kind of embodied connection with the plants that might help people feel a kind of connection or a kind of intimacy. But kind of situating the histories of the plants within the exhibit can bring a different dimension and different kinds of relationships to the experience of the exhibit that can be a little messy or a little uncomfortable. So yeah, we wanted to create a space where people can feel both. They can have multiple different kinds of feelings and relationships to these plants, and then also create a space for conversation and for reflection and to process these kind of weight of histories, but also process like the complex feelings.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And you can interact with Sylvia's work outside here and as well as in the ground floor of the Candida building. So thank you. So next, we have Adira Griffin, who is an emerging new media artist and multidisciplinary designer based in Atlanta. And she recently graduated from the Savannah College of Art and Design and received a BFA in motion media design. And she uses both digital and traditional media to convey her narratives. So Adira, if I get your piece up. Your data visualization on the media bridge titled The Peach Pit showcases Environmental Protection Agency data of this air, soil, and water quality in the state of Georgia. Could you tell us about the data you researched and how it is mapped, and explain Superfund sites?
Of course.
Thanks.
Okay, so the 3 types of data that I did most of my research on were population, pollution, and geographical data. This took up more time than like the actual animation of this because I've never worked with data in this way before. So I derived my data from free government sites because whenever I tried to look at other sites with more accurate data of like 2023 or 2022, I was always met with like, okay, you need to pay this much to access this. And so I just went back to the free data because this is the data that's being shown to the public and the media is using with their facts and stuff like that. So when I was creating my piece, I wanted to make the movement throughout the piece mirror and like correlate with the natural elements of water, land, and air. So if you look up, it's kind of hard to see, it's small up there, but so the water pollution are like the motion with it is very fluid and it follows where the most concentration of pollution is in the state of Georgia. And I did the same concept with the air and the land. And Bernie was talking about Superfund sites. So there are 17 active Superfund sites in the state of Georgia. And a Superfund site is basically a place where there is misuse of the way we dispose of waste. So this can be a landfill or a factory that's kind of letting like stuff just get into the water, stuff like that. So when I was doing my research, what I found is that near these Superfund sites, there are lots of a big concentration of Black communities. So on this on the visualization up there, you can see like these airbrushed blue blobs. Those are where like 44% or more of that population is Black, are Black people. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's, and so could you tell us about how the Peach Pit is an alternative path to displaying data, and what you hope the audience will take away from this piece?
Of course. So I went more of a abstracted route because when I was looking at this data, I found so many inconsistencies and from different sources, they were also like biased. You didn't really know who it was coming from or who was out there like taking that data. So I wanted to reflect that in my visualization and show that like data is not fact, like it is bias, and that it can look very different from what you see like on a map or on a grid. And also that last question.
And just the fluidity of it.
Oh yeah, the fluidity of it. But you said one more question. I forgot the last part of that question.
And what do you hope the audience will take away?
Yes. Okay. So I hope that when people look at this, it just brings attention to the other communities within the state of Georgia. Like Atlanta is like 48, I think 45 or 48% of a Black community, but within like even like Georgia Tech, it's not really reflected in the people who attend here. So I wanted to kind of bring or I'm excited that this piece is here to bring attention to communities we may not see every day or interact with every day, and just like in general, just like raising awareness of what's happening with the environment to students here.
Yeah, thank you so much and for bringing your work here. And you can see Adira's work outside on the media bridge. So we hope that you spend a little time there after this talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the second to last work is by Inspired Action Design, IAD, who they are a network of physical and digital practitioners with a collective passion for making lasting impressions by weaving together technology, emotional architecture, storytelling, and beautiful content. And the following practitioners collaborated to create Dyadic Communico, seen up here on the screen. And that is Hunter Spence, who did the production and story design right here on my left, and who is a lecturer here at Tech and an alum, and also helped design the media bridge. Joel Krieger, who's the experienced designer, Matt Lewis, who's on technology, and Mauricio Tolero, who is on graphic design. So after looking at Georgia's dark history with plantations, its current Superfund sites, and the way in which the Anthropocene has evolved, we need some hope. So Hunter, you are one of 4 team members at IAD and Dyadic Communico. You display an abstracted magic 8-ball visitors can interact with. And so could you tell us more about this piece for the audience?
Sure. And thank you for having us.
Yeah, no problem.
And I'll try to sound hopeful in my response to that question. If I get too dark, pull me out.
Okay.
I'll start with the title. So Dyadic Communico, it's meant to sound, and it I guess kind of uses some pentameter there to sound like a dance between technology, nature, and our community. Those 3 actors, which is, I guess, sort of like a counterpoint to oftentimes the sad reality that you have things like social media technology, news media, the things you hear through those channels are, whether on purpose or not, tend to divide us and sort of push us into adversarial relationships in our community, like 2 different political parties. And the conversation about the environment, which is actually quite complex, is usually narrowed down into 1 or 2 sound bites. And it's, it's good TV if it makes people angry and makes them yell at each other. And the conversation tends to be very carbon emission focused, where we see that the situation is actually a lot more complex than that. So with this art piece, we tried to go even beyond just a dance. And this is going to sound maybe this is going to sound kind of like spiritual, philosophical, or something, but or metaphysical. Metaphysical is maybe a better word. What if these 3 actors, nature, our community, and technology, could not just be 3 actors that are sort of in a symbiotic relationship or in a dance, but what if they actually became the same being and could breathe as one, could think as one, could respond as one? And what if we could ask that being questions and get answers back? And the being itself wasn't at odds, because usually what we hear is that our community is at odds with nature and technology is at odds with our community. These 3 actors tend to be at odds with each other, but what if they were the same being? So we're looking at the bridge sort of as like a metaverse window, a window into a metaverse where this being is possible, where these 3 actors could actually come together and communicate with us. It's going to sound kind of funny, but one inspiration was, and I might date myself up here, the movie Poltergeist, where you have the little girl looking through the TV and looking at the static, and you get the sense that there's this other sort of like higher dimension behind the TV, and the TV is like a window into this higher dimension. So we definitely did not want to give spooky vibes with this. But we're looking at the bridge as sort of a window into this higher dimension where this being is possible. And now when we communicate with it and ask it questions, maybe these answers don't divide us. They don't have an ulterior motive other than just to give us truth. So and Joel here did most of the research for the questions and the answers and the articles that come up to the bridge. I'm going to let him talk about that. But first, I'll describe kind of what you do with this. What you do is you go up to the bridge, you scan the QR code, and then from your phone, you can pick a question to ask the bridge, and you'll get back an answer. And then your phone will also direct you to articles that you don't normally find with that first Google search, or certain aspects that aren't mentioned on the soundbite that you hear on the news. Joel, you want to talk a little bit about how you found the articles? And
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so I guess my entry point into being interested in all things environment was maybe around 2011, 2012, when I learned about that we're in a mass species extinction. So my entry point wasn't climate; it was, oh wow, everything's so focused on humans that we're not even noticing that the plants and the animals are dying off. And it was so astounding to me that I couldn't believe this is like the biggest story of our time, and no one's talking about it. And then this bizarre kind of creeping of awareness and talk in the media about climate and carbon. It was such a bizarre experience to me. Why are we only talking about this thing when this is happening over here and it's so easy to see? So it kind of began this I don't know, like a quest of curiosity where I just voraciously dove into reading everything I could get my hands on. And so in a way, this process was kind of a fun reflection of digging back into some of the most powerful essays that I've read that really changed my worldview, that kind of took a question or an assumption about how we think the world works and really flipped it on its head and maybe look at things differently. And so that's kind of what we did with these questions, is we tried to come up with a lot of common questions that people might ask, but the way that they're answered is a bit provocative, is a bit sideways, and hopefully will make people look at some things that they've taken for granted in a bit of a different way.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for designing this piece and bringing it to Georgia Tech's campus. And I hope you all go out and interact with this piece after this talk. We'll have some time to do that before we take the shuttle to the Candida building. So thank you. I know. And lastly, we have a group of 4 artists and researchers and architects. So Stuart Romm is a professor of the practice at Georgia Tech's College of Design. He helped design and execute the Georgia Tech Library Media Bridge, where some of the exhibit is displayed. And he is also founding principal in the Atlanta architectural firms of Praxis 3 and Romm and Purcell. Amy Landesberg, I know y'all can sit wherever you like or stand. Amy Landesberg is an Atlanta-based artist and architect, and she has participated in the design of a wide array of projects, many of which focus on environmental sustainability. She has taught extensively at schools of design, including Tulane, Ohio State, Princeton, Georgia State, and Georgia Tech. Hudson Treu is an interdisciplinary artist, designer, and creative technologist working between interactive media, machine learning, and computational arts. And Hudson is currently completing his master's degree in human-computer interaction here at Georgia Tech. And lastly, Jordan Graves is an Atlanta-based artist, designer, and educator making art with code in a variety of media. And she graduated from the Savannah College of Art and Design with a BFA in motion media design as well. And she is currently pursuing a PhD in digital media here at Georgia Tech. So Gather the Forest was created by Stuart, Amy, Hudson, and Jordan. And this piece centers around community and how networks are vital to growth and vitality. So could you 4 tell us more about your piece and how each of you were involved in it. So I will start with you, Stuart.
Okay, is this on? Yes.
Yep.
So, well, thank you, Bernie, for converging all of us here today. Frankly, not just us, and we're four here, but all of the artists working on this. Because as an architect for the library renovation, that was our challenge, is to try to create where there's a public space at that crossroads under the bridge, a place that actually reinvented public space for our new era when the books, physical books are leaving and virtually information is far more kind of experience in addition to physical space. How could we create something that was new, innovative, and could be a laboratory for just these kinds of experiments? And so really our mission, and we're fulfilling it with these kinds of events, is to break out of the silos on campus and have a convergence of community where this can be an ongoing laboratory of experimentation for these ways that we experience our togetherness and collaboration and connectedness in both physical and virtual spaces. So with that opportunity, we were very excited to collaborate on this, and Amy and others are going to speak to what the project is about.
Hey. So when faced with these questions of community and sustainability, we thought of our immediate local community and our immediate sustainability crisis, and therefore thought of people gathering together to learn more about protecting our canopy here, right outside, right now. And in studying, old growth, we learned so much about how trees are interconnected underground, how they communicate, that, they form a community through their root structure, their way they share air, the way they share nutrients. And so we wanted to engage people in that. We wanted to do it, we wanted to provide a view of looking up through the trees, and develop that, frankly, as a engagement, a seduction to want to plant trees. So, it is urgent that we preserve our old growth. That is the most important thing, and that we plan accordingly. But where there are no trees, or where trees cannot be, preserved, it's really important to plant them. So we wanted to direct people to this experience of virtually planting trees, and then link them to Trees Atlanta, where they can go and do it. There are a lot of Georgia Tech students who volunteer to work with Trees Atlanta. We want more, and it is a very gratifying, satisfying thing to do. And it really does help. Yeah.
Hello. So my contribution with this work was mostly around working with the AI tools, and I created the music and audio effects. I'll mention we chose to work with the AI tools in this project because it afforded us this degree of realism we're going for, that we really weren't quite able to get to with the 3D modeling procedures alone. But I think the choice to work with AI tools in this project and in any creative work or arts project really requires reflection on many things. But one, how these tools impact the environment, and the cost and benefit of actually working with them. Also on what models you're actually working with, what data they were trained on, where that data came from, and what that imparts on the meaning of the work. And then also what you as the artist actually trying to achieve by implementing these models or working with them, what the greater creative expression you're trying to go for is, because it's no secret that anyone now can generate pretty much anything you can think of with the click of a button, and it's only getting better. But with that, just being able to replicate or variations of previous old work, at what point does art's ability to convey deep and complex human emotions and feelings and experiences start to wash out or fade? And with that, the ability to connect people across like time and space, just through shared experiences and feelings. Yeah, so I think that the choice to work with these AI tools really requires reflection and creative work. And there's many topics on AI that are very important right now, but I think those are some points in regards to our piece.
So my role was primarily making the work interactive and getting it to display on the bridge, which I won't bore you with the details, but it basically is a website that is just running on the bridge that you can see on the LEDs, and you access the interactivity via a website that you go to on your phone. And the thing about a website is, sure, anyone can access it, but we are just limiting the activity or the interactivity to people that are physically here at the bridge. So with that, you have to take action, show up, and be here. And with that, we're hoping that individuals will invite people to actually gather with them in the space, because not one person can, make change alone. You have to work together and build community.
Yeah. So thank you all so much. And Gather the Forest is right outside, and take your cell phones and interact with it. So thank you so much. That's our last piece and group for tonight. And I want to thank you all again, and all the artists and researchers for coming to, for supporting this exhibit. So thank you. And so there are many students that have volunteered their time as art ambassadors tonight, as well as to help with logistics. So you will see them in the library, at the media bridge, in Candida, representing the pieces. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. And after looking at the art at the library and at the media bridge, please go down the hill in the back on 4th Street to get on the Georgia Tech shuttle. And we'll go over, or you can walk over to the Candida building, where there will be a reception with food and drinks. And you'll see all the other great pieces that are in this exhibit. And then the shuttle will pick up twice from that bottom of the hill on 4th Street, and then it will run continuously until 7:45, I think, and it will drop off at Cherry Street. So if you parked in Visitor Lot 1, and if the artist and sponsors could stand back for a group photo, that'd be great. And for everyone else, I encourage you to look at the pieces outside and on the media bridge, and then go get a place on the shuttle, or start walking over to the Candida building, because there's lots more happening. So thank you.